In this lesson, you'll learn about the consolidation process in Dynamics 365 Finance. Now, in our earlier lesson on intercompany transactions, we spoke of two separate legal entities from Google having a transaction between each other, and that being termed as an intercompany transaction. Now, taking that same example further, the hundreds or thousands of legal entities within the Google group will have financials like balance sheet, profit and loss account of each legal entity separately. But for the purpose of viewing it as a group, the entire Google group financials, the results of each of the legal entities will be consolidated into a single legal entity. On the screen, you can see that CG is the consolidation group and C01, 02 and 03 are individual legal entities which have separate financial results. Now, at the end of the reporting period, all of these separate legal entities will be consolidated together into a single legal entity. Now, within Dynamics 365, C01, C02 and C03 will of course be three separate legal entities because the transactions, the journals, the invoices will be booked into each of these legal entities separately as they occur. Now, CG will be a fourth legal entity which you will create within Dynamics 365, but you will not have any direct transactions that are going to get posted into CG. But instead, it will just pull the data from C01, 02 and 03 as part of the consolidation process. Now, consolidation within Dynamics 365 can be done in two ways. One is an export and import process by which the results of C01, 02 and 03 are being exported out of the legal entities and they are being imported into the CG group, which is probably in a different server or a different instance of Dynamics 365. And if you had all the four legal entities, C01, 02, 03 as well as the CG company within the same instance of Dynamics 365, you could do what is called a consolidate online process, which does the consolidation by picking data from each of the three legal entities from the same instance and puts it into CG company. Now, this is what we are going to see in today's lesson. So on the screen, you can see that this is the consolidate online screen, and whether I'm running the consolidation process at the end of the month, at the end of the quarter, or at the end of the year, I will give in a description for the consolidation entry. I'll also give in a from and to ledger account number from which the transactions need to be pulled in. And out here, there's the date range. So I can consolidate for May, June, July separately as the months happen, or I can run it for the entire quarter or at the end of the year. So the date range helps me choose the consolidation period. And then there is the include actual amounts, which means it goes ahead and picks up the actual transactions being posted. Below that is the include budget amounts in case I want to consolidate the budgets as well as the actuals. In that case, I'll mark include budgets too. Of course, I'll have to give in a budget model when I'm marking this include budget amounts to be pulled. Along with that, there are different tabs for financial dimensions, legal entities, and elimination as well. In the legal entities, I'll specify C01, 02 and 03 because these are the three legal entities that I'm trying to consolidate. So I'm going to specify which legal entity I need to consolidate. And elimination is a process where you're removing the intercompany transactions because these should not form part of your consolidated results. So let's jump across into the application and pick up one example and see as to how the consolidated results appear. Now from our earlier example of C01, 02 and 03, I'm going to replace it with USSI and USMF as my sister or subsidiary legal entities, which will get consolidated into GLCO. So in the organization administration module, when I go across into legal entities, in my consolidated company, which is GLCO, there is a flag for use financial consolidation process. So this needs to be marked, and elimination also can be within the same legal entity GLCO, or it can be within a separate legal entity where you have one for financial consolidation and another for the elimination process. So now I can go ahead and run the consolidation process. To do that, I will go across into the consolidations module and basically choose consolidate online. So out here I will say that this is the consolidation for USSI plus USMF for, let's say it is November 20. And in my accounts, I'm going to choose the first account to the last account. If I need it for a different range, I want to consolidate only for a select range of accounts, I can do that out here. And in my consolidation process, I will say November and I will say till today. And as I said earlier, I'm not going to select the budget amounts. So I'll just select include actual amounts. In financial dimensions, if you have the same financial dimensions across all of the legal entities, those will be copied across. And in my legal entities is where I'm actually going to define as to which are the legal entities from which I'm picking up the data. So I'll say USSI and USMF. In the second column is where you given the share, the percentage of your holding, the consolidation percentage in case the ownership of GLCO company within these USMF and USSI subsidiaries is 50% only. I'll give in 50 out here. But in this case, I'll just leave it as 100. And if there are any differences for your conversion of different currencies, now USMF and USSI are within the same US region, but it could be a case where, but you could have a case where one is in US, one is in Europe, or one is in Australia, and which. So in this case, when you have exchange rate differences, it's basically asking us as to where we need to post this kind of differences. And in the elimination tab, you will define the elimination rules for removing the intercompany transactions that we spoke of earlier. With this much being selected, I'll go ahead and click on the OK button, which will run the consolidation process and basically consolidate the data from the two subsidiary entities, that is USMF and USSI, and put the consolidated data into my GLCO company, which is the company that I'm currently logged into. So let me go back into the consolidation module and I can look at the consolidation transactions. There you go. As you can see, the first two lines show me that the transactions have been picked up from USMF and USSI company for that period that I gave for that range of main accounts from the chart of accounts, and it has transferred those consolidated entries into my GLCO company. So I can look at the transactions that I've come across from USSI, and it shows me a bunch of transactions that I've come across. In case I'm not happy with the consolidation, I can click the remove transactions button, which will remove this USSI, and then I can remove USMF as well. And let's say that the USMF and the USSI entity finance team has posted some more entries. After I've run the consolidation, I can remove these transactions basically and rerun the consolidation process, which will bring in the fresh data from these subsidiary entities. And so now I'm going to go across and open the trial balance. And I'm going to say, let's look at transactions that are dated for today within GLCO company, which is my consolidated legal entity. And it shows me a bunch of accounts that I've come across. So let me pick this example of travel expenses, that is 601,500. So if I click the transactions, it shows me that there are two transactions that I've come across. One is 1764.71 and 1980.2. So one of these transactions has come across from the USMF company, and the other is the transaction that has come across from the USSI company. So if you remember the amounts, one is 1764.71 and one is 1980. So now let's log into USMF company and open the trial balance for the same date range. And we'll go and look at the transaction that was sitting under the travel expenses, which is my 601,500 account. So if you remember the two lines that we saw in the GLCO consolidated legal entity. One was 1980. So this is the transaction which has come across from USMF. And if I now log into USSI company for the same travel expenses ledger account, I will see the other entry that was showing up under GLCO company. So log into 601-500. And if I click one travel expenses, I can see this transaction of 1764.71. So I hope you now understand with this example that the transaction that you're posting into the individual legal entities like USSI or USMF can be consolidated across into a separate legal entity using the online consolidate process within Dynamics 365 Finance. Just to highlight the skills that you have learned as part of this training course, you have learned about the posting of journals, which results in the inquiries and the report. And you can use inquiries like trial balance, accounting explorer, which will help us view the transactions of the journals that you have posted. And then we followed it up by looking at the financial periods opening and closing process. We understood the GL allocation process within Dynamics 365 as to how do you allocate the expenses to different accounts or different financial dimensions like business unit, cost center, department, or even separate legal entities. And then you learned about the intercompany accounting process, which is basically the recording of the intercompany expenses. The example that we spoke of out there was the hotel expenses of one legal entity being paid by another legal entity. And lastly, you learned about the consolidation process within Dynamics 365, which is basically consolidating the financial results from the sister legal entities into a single consolidated legal entity. Finally, I would like to thank you for attending this course and hope that you now understand the concepts of the General Ledger module and that you have moved a few more steps ahead in your journey of learning D365 Finance. If you found this course useful, please do share it with your friends and colleagues, and also please do leave a higher rating as it will help me to come up with more courses similar to this one. Thanks again and bye-bye.